flat bottom, no guards on it. Old Banks Maxwell flat prop. But it run good in the water. Just didn't do any good in that sawgrass. That's the engine that I took out of that boat and put in that little racing boat that I won the races with. And we'd been up L8 Canal fishing, caught a bunch of them young bass up there, brought them home, have a fish fry. Old friend of ours, Jesse Letter, on the right there, he's up about 80 years old there. And this is my oldest daughter, Christine. She's 53 years old now, so you can figure how old these films are. I'm doing this narrating. This is the year of 2002, excuse me. This is back when we first built the camp. We were building an addition on it, building another room on it. We hadn't been out there in a while. You can see how it growed up, so we had a lot of work to do to clean up the yard. Finally planted grass and everything there. That fellow there helping us, I can't remember his name. He come out there a couple times with me, wanted to go out in the glades. These old boats here, we had little 85 horse Continentals on them. And it was dry out there. We run from Route 27, that 20-mile trip out to the camp on dry ground with them old boats. What I done, I put 1x6 runners underneath them, bolt them on the bottom, and it'd make them skid good, and they'd run that dry right on out the old trail, no problem. Only problem we had when the water come back up, when we get out there a frog, and the grass would get between the boards and the bottom of the boat, and you couldn't steer them. They drug them down. We finally had to take them off. That was over at Al Henschel's camp. His camp was about a mile south of mine. There's old Cecil. This is the older boats again. Well, here we are in the old half-track, stuck again. This is my old Model A half-track. Had them short tracks on it, and you could get it stuck. We finally realized we could take one of them 3x4 timbers and put it across the tracks, and they'd climb out on top of it. That's a long time ago, but they have really improved on them now. First started out with a Model A, and then I got a Model B. I thought that would be a better engine, but I couldn't keep no bearings in it. Finally ended up putting a V8 flathead Ford in it, and kept upgrading. That's Kenny Knowles. We were over along the Big Cypress, found a set of antler there, shed. Back at the camp, making like we're working on the buggy. Boy, what I'd give if I'd had a video camera back in them days. This is Earl and Kenny picking them old sour oranges. The only thing they were good for is a drink mixer or making lemonade. Old gator head hanging on that tree that we'd found out there. Like I said, Earl's always cutting a fool. The old tin house we built out there, we had cables over top of it, put tie downs. Got some screw anchors from the power company, and we had 2 cables over there with tie downs there, and Earl and I rode a hurricane out there one year in that old cabin. Old hurricane stood off of Palm Beach there for a long time. We thought it was going, so we went frogging and got out there, and the next night, man, that thing come out across there and went across, right, the eye of it come right across our camp, went on across to Fort Myers and tore up Fort Myers. But the old cabin survived it. Unbelievable. Well, this was out there in the summertime after the burn. We found an old sow and some pigs out there, and got out there and run them down by foot. Caught them, turned them loose. That's Kenny making a mad leap at one. Caught it. Old Cecil done caught the big mama hog. Watch out, Kenny. That thing could bite you. He turned loose in a hurry there. That's what you call catch and release. Better go out there and make some more babies. I had to get in the act to catch one. Little bugger run all over the place there with me. Going back home to his mama now. Yeah, that's the game warden flying over us. Old Cossie Conrad, pilot for the game commission, real nice feller. And this is back at the highway where we left from, and that's J.O. Brown, wildlife officer there. I can't remember who the other fellow is with him, but they come in there to check us out when we come in. Well, this was my first V8 buggy. That was the game warden that flew over there a minute ago. I was pulling my airboat behind me. I made this trail from Route 27 about 4 or 5 miles north of Andytown straight out to the Miami Canal. I did it one night after midnight. Erlene's daddy and Earl and Al Henschel and myself on my buggy, we just put it off the side of the road, and I went straight towards the old Weasel Trail. I said I was going to intercept it right there where it crosses the Miami Canal, and in the middle of the night did it, no problem. This is up around Lakeland. Went up there to check out this little gyrocopter they're demonstrating. He was putting the rotors on it there. It was Norval Brown on the left and Francis on the right. And while he was working on that, I was looking at the prop on it and told him it had a crack in the tip. If that thing was to come apart and go through that rotor blade, he'd be in trouble. Well, anyhow, I heard that about a couple of weeks after this that's what happened. His prop exploded, went through the top rotor, and he got killed in it. So I didn't have any more interest in one. It had a little old drone engine, had a turn up about 5,000 RPM, little 2-cycle motor. Now they've got them where they got some good engines on them, and they do a heck of a good job. But it flew real nice. It's called a Benson gyrocopter. I've seen them demonstrate these since then, and they go up there and shut the engine off on them, and they just glide on down like an airplane. Of course, they come pretty well straight down. They don't glide forward too much. But you could come down, and just before you got on the ground, you could flip that blade up and actually stop it mid-air before you touch the ground. I've actually seen them back it up a little bit before they landed it. This is down on the old Miami Canal before they dug it out from Lake Harbor going south. We used to go down there and go hog hunting. There's some big old nasty gators in that canal back then. I mean, running down that canal, and they slide in the water under you. You'd run over them and think they're going to turn your bareboat over. That's an old hog we caught down there. This is Harold Hodges. He was a deputy sheriff in Palm Beach County, and the fellow behind him is Bill Hilton. He was a highway patrolman. Good friends. Bill got killed in a wreck going on vacation, going up north. Somebody run across the median and hit him head on, killed him and his whole family. That was a big old boar that Bill shot with his .38 service pistol, shot him in the head, and the hog kept on coming. I was right there with him, and I killed him with my .357, and Bill says he'd never carry a .38 again. One of them old bad ones there. One of them old big hogs. He wasn't in any hurry to go anywhere. In fact, he about said, "That's as far as I'm going. Now come and get me if you can." Well, in the meantime, we got stuck again. That's old Jay Lucky there. An old buddy I used to hunt with a lot out there. We had some good times together back in the early 50s. He moved out to Texas. That's Harold Hodges. Back on L-28 Canal, we used to go down there and jump over the dike and go fishing and catch a mess of fish and jump back over the dike, go back to camp, cook them up and eat them. You could just catch all you wanted back then. Take a little old jig, little light spinning rod with a little jig and a yellow or white jig, and they just tear it up. This was that boat I had with a 160 in it. This was going back again when I had that 160 in it, and I was running them big old flags there along the mud canal. That's old Dick Whitaker and his wife Rudy. Old Dick didn't know but two ways to run an airboat, and that's dead still or wide open. Little old raccoon come up there at the camp. That's going down into Al's camp, Al Henschel's camp. That was the prettiest island in the Everglades. Big old rubber trees on it. It was a beautiful island. Till after we had some bad hard freezes, and it finally killed all those trees off. I was back down there in '93. We had a old timers reunion down there, and I couldn't believe how things have changed. There's no islands hardly left down in the glades. Sawgrass is about all gone. You don't see a deer out there anymore. It's unbelievable. That's Earlene's Uncle Jack Wellman. That's a litter of puppies I had there at my house. My young'uns back. One on the right's Barbara. She's a deputy sheriff now, about ready to retire, and that's Marianne on the left and Christine on the far left. My 3 daughters, that's Johnny, my son with his back towards us, my middle son. That's Bob Rosenberg. He owned American Spray Company in West Palm Beach. He come out there a few times. We were on our way over to the Big Cypress to Bob Townsend's camp. He was a game warden over there in the Cypress, cattleman and game warden, I think. That's Cecil. I do a little bit of repair work on his boat. I can't remember who those 3 fellows were. They were over Bob's camp when we got there. That was over in Big Cypress. You could drive down that way to it with a buggy, go down through Hall's pasture, down through the Indian reservation by Hall's cattle pens, and run on down into the Cypress that way. That's Cecil with an old cow head. There's an old coon back there at the camp. Probably never seen a human being before. Sure wasn't afraid of you. Jay Lucky and Cecil were feeding it there. I believe it was hungry. The water was pretty high back then, and bugger come right up there and eat out of your hands. This is over at Hall's cattle pens along the edge of the Cypress. This back on 27. This was 1957. I built a trailer that would haul 2 airboats. Earl and I used to frog a lot together, and we just take our 2 airboats on the one trailer and take off and go all over Florida. Go for 3 or 4 nights at a time and frog hunt. Come on back. Only had to go with 1 vehicle that way. And back at the camp again. I think Earl should have been a movie star. He sure liked to show off in front of the camera. I'm going to remind you, this is year 2002, and Earl's gone, left us, Cecil's left us, Al's left us. The years are marching on, that's for sure. But I will say this, we had the best of the Everglades back in the 50s. That's Earl on my boat. That was the boat when I first put the overhead guards on it. This is back off of Lake Park. Our airboat club had a picnic out there. You go by airboat, or you could go by boat down the canal, one of them islands down there. Can't recognize some of these people, don't remember their names. I don't remember who that was. That lady on the left, that's Jimmy Rice's wife. I recognize her. Earlier there, I've seen Robert Palmer. Yeah, we're back in the Glades again. This was leaving Al's camp. That's my buddy Jay Lucky and Cecil Knowles. Old Lucky started coming out there right after we had built the camp. That was him and Cecil out there cutting a fool in front of the camp, and right about here somewhere I seen the two boats look like they're going to collide, and I quit taking the picture and he'd turned his boat over there. And they were back out on AL-28 catching them bass, getting another mess of bass to take back and eat. That was back when the Everglades water was clean. You could dip it up and drink it before they started dumping all that sugar cane poison into it. And just like all they claim that high water was killing those deer, I don't think the high water was as bad as it was that poison that they sprayed in that sugar cane and run off into the canals and filtered down in the glades. I think that had more to do with killing our wildlife than the high water that we had. Another string of bass were caught, took back to camp and cooked up, had a fish fry.